Welcome to episode 213 of the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro podcast, recorded live on January 15th, 2021. This is a show about Microsoft 365 and Azure from the perspective of IT pros and end users, where we discuss a topic or recent news and how it relates to you. As 2021 gets going, so is the news from Microsoft. In today's episode, we chat about editing code behind a PowerApps Canvas app, the transition of Azure Automation runbooks to GitHub, some new connectors that are available for Power Automate, and various other tidbits of news that we've discovered this past week.
You're good at pushing people's buttons.
Am I ever? I was the oldest brother. I have lots of experience in pushing people's buttons to the point where they get in trouble and not me.
Well, it is a talent to be sure.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I had to leave a Facebook group. We have a neighborhood Facebook group. Well, truth be told, we have 3 neighborhood Facebook groups.
Now, to be fair, you live in one neighborhood
with like 110 houses.
Oh, boo-hoo. Mm-hmm.
If you would like to see drama, we have a living soap opera in our neighborhood. Thus, we have 3 Facebook groups. But I had to leave one of said Facebook groups before I started pushing buttons of somebody I probably should not have pushed buttons on.
Well, stuff happens.
Yes, it is. Oh, my word. It is an ordeal, to say the least.
Well, now that you're out of that, I can. One of the things that I found was interesting. I don't know if they have Nextdoor. Maybe they do in like the rest of the world. But in the United States, like, you're familiar with Nextdoor?
Yep, because we have Nextdoor too. That is probably a greater neighborhood. There's people in it that are like all around us.
Yeah. Nextdoor is another like interesting one. It's Facebookish, but with potential to be more neighborly and also focus on neighborhood activities over, sometimes the things that you'll see in like your neighborhood Facebook group, where all of a sudden 2 friends start having a conversation or things like that. Anywho, one of my accomplishments over the course of this pandemic and being locked down is trying to find new hobbies. And one of them was I have become a moderator on Nextdoor. So I get to like review the flag posts and things like that. And let me tell you, that is like grab a cup of coffee once a week, sit down with the iPad and just go through and like approve, don't approve. Ooh, I don't know about that one. Remove, don't remove. That one's kind of a fun hobby.
So because we're talking about this, as we were talking, I literally got a text message from one of our neighbors. And I don't think any of our neighbors listen to this, so I'm safe to talk about this. Like, certain people have been removed from certain Facebook groups, so now somebody is resorting to taping signs on like our neighborhood sign at the front of the entrance. Like, he types it up, prints it out, goes out and tapes it to the sign. And the latest one he just put, like, bold underline at the top: "Those who wish to defeat me have chosen a battle with a warrior. Whoever is involved, you're now made false accusations in a sworn statement to the courts. And in your mind, the devil has lied to you and made you think this is all right." And then it goes on. And then at the bottom in all caps, "It will still be a great weekend, however."
And I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole. We should go let's go be zealots about technology. And like, yeah, maybe when we stop recording, we'll go chat about this one.
Yes, we can chat about this because this is epic, Scott. Anyways, so one other one. I have a big congratulations for you, Scott. We have now reached, it's only taken 3 years, we have reached 500,000 downloads of our podcast.
Oh, nice. I'm glad somebody looks at that.
Yes, somebody listens. Somebody continues to listen. So congratulations. Thank you to all of you that listen, because we wouldn't be at 500,000 downloads without any of you. So it was just kind of a fun number to see on our statistics page.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad you look at that stuff. I really don't as much as I should.
Every once in a while I jump in. I have not looked at it as much over the last 6 to 9 months because we mentioned it before. Like it's a little bit sad the last few months because just podcast listenership in general has dwindled off. I know you said yours has. I know mine has, just because nobody's commuting. That's when I listened, was in the car as I was driving places, on the plane.
Yeah,
because everybody's staying at home, just downloading, listening in general has trickled off a little bit.
oh, for sure. Like you said, for you and I personally, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, but now we can go be zealots about technology.
All right,
what should we be zealots about in technology? Because we're getting back into this. There's a bunch of news that's starting to pop up here and there. Everybody's back to work. Stuff's starting to happen.
There is, yeah. There's going to be all sorts of things coming over the next few months. So we're going into CES, which is hardware season. And that's always kind of a fun time to see what's coming with new hardware things. But that also means that all sorts of weird software comes out to support all that hardware. There's a number of conferences and things that are coming up. Like, I don't know if everybody caught in Microsoft land when Ignite went off in, November. Like, it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Ignite is coming again, and that's in March. So the next iteration of Ignite is only 7 weeks away. So I know like community leads and things and marketing are actively planning for that right now. I know I saw Anna Chu out there with putting together table talks and things like that. So I think over the next give it like 8 to 12 weeks, there will be a bunch of different stuff to talk about. We're also coming up on analyst season, and there's certainly like a cadence when a lot of the analysts and reporting agencies come out with their yearly reports. So think like the Gartners of the world with their updated Magic Quadrants, or like IDC doing refreshes, or new takes on technologies. That typically happens in the February to April timeframe as well. So we should see a lot of that. So you'll see like a lot of companies, not just Microsoft, but lots and lots of companies will want to have all of their announcements that they want to be impactful in those reports, or over like the first half, 3/4 of this year. They want all those announcements out or ready to go out by March, like March 1.
Got it. So is there actually, I was thinking, as you said Ignite in March, and I remember seeing Ignite in March. I was curious if Build had been scheduled yet, because Build is typically spring. Like in the past, they've done Build in the spring and they've done Ignite in the fall. And I don't see Build on the calendar. That's usually later half. Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's usually May.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Build yet.
So yeah, and if I go look, there's a few people have put dates out there, and Microsoft's official event calendar doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything specific about there is no Build because there's Ignite in the spring or Build dates. It's just kind of there's no dates yet. So
yeah, well, I think with Ignite in front of it, like I don't have any insight into like if Build is or isn't happening. My assumption would be it is, because it is totally a thing.
Right.
But with Ignite sitting in front of it from just a cadence perspective, you'll hear more about Ignite.
Ignite, they want people to sign up for that. Maybe we'll see Build Maybe we'll see Build announced at that, and I could see maybe them pushing it back to like June, July, and then have maybe another Ignite again in November. We'll see. But yes, all that being said, there's lots of news.
Yes, there is. And hopefully it keeps on coming. So what do you want to start with?
What do you want to, there's so much. Can I start with one that was intriguing to me that is very much, don't go out and do this in production. Like Microsoft even gives you the warning, do not go do this in production. play with it because we want feedback and we want you to find bugs. But if you go do this to all of your Power Apps, it is a bad idea because it is an experimental. So this isn't even a preview feature or beta. This is defined as an experimental feature. But this experimental feature starts the whole article, source codes for Canvas apps. Imagine using GitHub with a Canvas app. So it's a fairly lengthy article that was just released on June 14, and it walks through several processes of using different source control for your Power Apps. And essentially, they're giving you the ability to export the .msapp file, which is that Power App file, do a save as, unpack it using this experimental feature tool, make changes to what their demo, they show making changes to a formula, but essentially changing the source code in that .msapp file. You do have to package it back into a .msapp file and then open it up in Power App Studio and republish it and all of that. So it's not like you could really do a full CI/CD pipeline or do automatic builds and pushes, but I feel like it's kind of starting in that direction of people.
Well, I think the example they gave is a little bit manual, right? Because it's talking about starting on the client and then committing and then unpacking and pushing to GitHub and committing to your repo and then making changes like maybe from another client or directly from the edit experience on GitHub and then doing a pull and bringing that back down to the client and then repacking it. But that unpack and pack experience, it's ultimately driven from the command line. So there's no reason that couldn't be like a remote agent or something else as part of a build process. Or I imagine they look to like mature that, like you said, it's preview functionality that's sitting out there today.
Right. First step is let's practice unpacking, modifying, and repacking. And next step will be automating it end to end.
Yeah. And I think it's cool from the perspective of even if you're not going to use like any type of automation or like software development lifecycle around that process, now you can go and unpack those MS app files and make them non-opaque. So they're not just binary blobs that are sitting out there anymore. Like you can see the YAML that drives some of the canvas and things like that.
Yep. Well, and even some of the things they call it is like text comparison. Because I know as I've gone through and built Power Apps before, I'll go change something and I won't be able to figure out what I broke or what changed or what happened and why this doesn't work anymore because it's so much drop downs, dialog boxes, like all that configuration is all over the place. To be able to go take like two different versions of this and actually do a text comparison of the source code and say, here's that missing quote, or here's the stuff that actually changed so I can go in and get it fixed. I think there can be some big benefits there as well.
Yeah. Highly experimental, fraught with danger. You're editing lots of YAML. Like, good luck. YAML was a tool that was created to make us all bang our heads against our desks.
Yeah. And it's not just one file. They do give the directory structure of your Power App as well in this article. And it's a whole bunch of JSON files too. I don't know, like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's probably like 10, 12 different files at least in a like set directory structure for these Power Apps. So there's a lot going on there. This isn't just go edit an XML file like if you were to do this with Logic Apps or Flow.
Yeah. But still nifty all the same.
It is. So that was one that kind of jumped out at me as a nifty experimental, go use at your own risk, but something I know people have been asking for and some features I can find useful. So would you like to pick our next one for today?
Ooh, well, we can probably stay on the whole power train. There were a bunch of new connectors released in December of 2020 for oh, I keep wanting to say Flow, but for Power Automate.
It's all right. We know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you mean.
Do we? I think we're going to hit that point very soon where you're going to say Flow and people are going to go like, huh? Isn't a Flow a thing I run, not the service in the background? And eventually they'll replace that, I imagine.
And then you start feeling really old.
Yeah. Yes, that is something that's coming as well. But yeah, so a bunch of new connectors in December, probably two that are kind of worth calling out. So one is the ability to kick off Power Query data flows through a connector. So maybe you have a business process that's supported by a data flow today where you interrogate some data that's in a Power BI data set, and then you push that into like a data lake or bring it over into Dataverse or something like that. Now you can initiate those processes or those Power Query data flows from your Power Automate flows that you were kicking off. And then the other one we were talking about, which sounds exciting, like on the surface and is, but then you dig into the licensing and the devil's always in the details there, was Adobe PDF tools.
Yes. Are you okay over there?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a momentary.
I was going to sneeze and then I was like, wait, I don't have my mask on, like the whole thing. But yeah, so the Adobe PDF tools connector allows you to do PDF creation, PDF manipulation. You can decompose PDF, so it's not just creation. You might also want to do PDF conversion, so convert a PDF into an Office document like PDF to Word, or maybe like PDF to HTML. You might want to do some OCR, things like that. That is all available through the PDF tools connector, which sounded like a fun and nifty one that was out there. But then again, like I said, you go and potentially read about the licensing for that one. Maybe it's not as fun as it sounds.
Yeah, and the details weren't super easy to find. You managed to dig them up around kind of what this is and some of the FAQs and all of that. There is a free trial if you do want to go try it, and it's a fairly extensive trial. It's 6 months, 1,000 documents to test it out.
Well, it's 1,000 API calls.
1,000 API calls. Yeah, sorry. Not 1,000 documents. 1,000 API calls, 6 months. And then you have to contact Adobe to get the licensing. So when I first saw it, I did not have time to dig into all of it. I was hoping it was going to be included with like Adobe Creative Cloud or one of those licenses, because already if you connect Adobe Creative Cloud to SharePoint, you can open your PDF files in Creative Cloud. You can manipulate them. You can do conversions manually, all part of the Creative Cloud. And I was like, oh, this would be nifty if they give you access to this with the Creative Cloud. It doesn't appear that they do.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be wrong on this one, especially since it leverages the same logins. Like you were able to go and sign in with your Adobe ID, which is the same ID that's associated with Creative Cloud. Yep. I was able to do the same thing. Like I didn't have to sign up for a separate identity or anything like that to use that PDF tools API. But I'll put all the links to the licensing and things like that. But yeah, if you want to do more processing, you actually go into like just a contact us form, which is that's always great when the pricing isn't even published anywhere, or you don't have an easy way to sign up for it.
Right. That always makes me a little nervous, but it's nice to see a native Adobe one, because some of this was possible before, but you did have to go do a third party, do something like a Muhimbi PDF converter. I know there's a couple other ones. Muhimbi always seems to be the big one people go to, but now there's a native one for the Adobe PDF tools as well.
Yep. So yeah, I'll put all the links to the licensing and kind of how to use it and onboard and things like that. So that is a standard connector in Logic Apps, and it is a premium connector in Power Automate and PowerApps.
Love how we always have to differentiate between those two.
Well, it's important that we call these things out.
It is. I've told some people if you don't have that many flows that are running, go do Logic apps so you don't have to pay for premium connectors. You're going to pay per action, but there's a chance it could be less than premium connectors.
There's always a chance.
Oh, there's always those details. So I don't know where to go from here.
Well,
you have me all like we could keep going down the GitHub route because you sent me some new ones about GitHub. We could stay in the Office 365 vein.
Whatever you want. It's the world is your oyster.
So I mentioned this one in my newsletter last week. We'll go to this one since this was one of the ones you sent me. We can jump over into some of your side of the world in Azure. Azure Automation runbooks are moving to GitHub from wherever they were previously. I should have that article in front of me, right?
They were in the old PowerShell gallery.
Yes.
TechNet gallery. Like whatever that old janky system was for not only maintainers to store and update their scripts, but also for consumers of said scripts to try and figure out what was out there. They've just taken all of that and gotten it over to GitHub, which is awesome.
Technically this retired in the past already. The Runbooks gallery was set to retire by December 2020. I don't know if that actually happened.
Correct. Well, that was it's actually the TechNet gallery retirement. So it wasn't just for Runbooks. It was overall the entire gallery.
Yeah. TechNet. Yeah. Well, and you've seen that for a while, right? Because all the everything's leaving TechNet.
Yes. I'll put a link out there to the blog post or the docs post around the retirement and kind of what happened. So if you were pulling things out of the TechNet gallery, or maybe you had some old bookmarks and you were used to going there, how those were brought over to GitHub. There's actually an org on GitHub. It's called Microsoft Archive. So if you just go to github.com/Microsoft Archive, that's where any of the archived material would have been moved to.
All right. And from an Azure Automation perspective, it doesn't change much. You'll still be able to go get them all, just that backend source repository has changed. But like you said, if you work on those, if you used to go to the gallery to see them, go to GitHub now. If you contributed to some of them, contributions will be in GitHub now. So it's a little bit more kind of on the backend development contribution side of things that you're really going to want to pay attention to this.
Yeah, actually, the place that I see it working the best is for those who have been writing their own runbooks, and maybe you fork them off something in the TechNet gallery and you were storing that in GitHub yourself, or you were just kind of hoarding it, but it's valuable to the community. It is arguably far easier to contribute through a public GitHub repo. So I would, my kind of gut instinct or expectation would be that contributions to existing runbooks start to accelerate a little bit. And that can't be anything but a good thing, because lots of those runbooks, quite frankly, they're useful, but they were kind of stale, or they required there was just that much extra friction. You wanted to do something, one we always used to talk about in training was stopping and starting VMs. Hey, how do you save money in Azure? Well, stop your VMs when you're not using them, and then you're just paying for the storage on the disks. And you'd go okay, well, now how do you automate that? Oh, here's an easy runbook. But this stop start VM runbook, there were a bunch of different ones out there. There were community ones, there were Microsoft ones. The Microsoft one, I always felt like I was making changes to logic within it just to make it work in kind of a more sane kind of, or a more prescriptive way based on customer environment. Maybe you want to stop all VMs in a subscription, or you wanted to stop all VMs in a resource group, or you wanted to stop all VMs with a certain name, or all VMs of a certain series, whatever it happened to be. And now you can either store that stuff in GitHub yourself or contribute back. And then if you have issues with any of this, GitHub issues is way easier than hitting the random contact form on the TechNet gallery as well.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of documentation out here in the article too that we'll link to on the whole new top level GitHub organization, on what you want to do if you want to create your own, how to create your own public repos, what you should label it, what files need to be in there. So all the nitty gritty details that you should know around this getting moved to GitHub is all in that article.
Yep. And if you're like, I don't need to read this stuff, just show me what was out there. Like, let me go to GitHub and see what kind of repos they've put up. It's just github.com/Azure Automation. So Azure Automation is the org. And then within there, you have runbooks and, you have a sample runbooks repo, and then all the individual repos for the public runbooks, which is super cool.
Yes. What else is going away, Scott? Something else related to Azure is going away.
This one's probably like late notice for folks that listen.
That used it.
Jupyter Notebooks, today is January 15th, 2021. Jupyter Notebooks in the Azure Notebooks preview are going away. Like, today's last day to use them. So hopefully if anybody had those, they have exported them out and potentially taken them over to any one of a myriad of other places that have capabilities to run Jupyter Notebooks both inside and outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. So like in the ecosystem, that might be like just going back to Visual Studio Code and running them there. There's GitHub code spaces, AML, Azure Machine Learning. Yes, you can run Python notebooks in Excel, but
that was Python, not Jupyter.
Well, and Jupyter Notebooks are Python, but runtimes and things like that.
See, now some of my ignorance around Jupyter and Python is coming out.
Yeah. Well, now you go down a path. But okay, anyway, they are going to another place. So sadly, the notebook service is now shut down, and but you can still take those things wherever you want to.
Yep. And one thing, this is not sort of related to this, is this was a preview feature, and they do call out too in that important announcement that on January 15th is going away. By the way, this preview version is provided without a service level agreement. It is not recommended for production workloads. Certain features might not be supported, yada, yada, yada. Just a word of caution. If you do run preview features, this does happen sometimes. Not all preview features continue on to GA. Some of them get killed off in preview. So as you do look at these, I know I always have a tendency to run preview like it's GA primarily because you're
one of the worst for it.
Yes, I am probably one of the most guilty there is about treating preview workloads like they're always going to GA. But kind of that word of caution, if you do use preview features, sometimes this happens. So you do want to be aware of what you might be using that's preview and kind of keep an eye on announcements around those.
Yes. I think this is a shining example of why you should not count on preview features coming to production, particularly in brand new products. Like, I think it's one thing when you say like, there's already an established service and then, hey, here's this new thing in preview. You've probably got a better chance of that preview making it all the way to production than you do for a brand new service that is 100% in preview. And in this case, notebooks, Azure Notebooks certainly fell into that category.
Yes, most definitely. So we probably have time for one or two more. Alexa's going to tell me I have a meeting. There's two different ones we could do, Scott. I don't know that we want to do one based on what we saw beforehand. Well, let's do this one because this one was called out as Microsoft specifically as being a highly asked for feature. Today, we are excited to announce or share, and this was posted on Wednesday. So it's Friday today, 2 days ago, on the 13th of January. You can now enable Azure AD access reviews for your guest users across all Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 groups in your organization. So as new Teams groups are created, access reviews are automatically enabled for those that already have guests in them. So this is a change. A few years ago already now, they had access reviews for identity governance, but it was limited to a specific it was limited to a specific site. So you could do access reviews, but you couldn't do them globally for a guest account across the entire organization. Now, if I am reading this properly, you are able to do guest reviews on a set schedule, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, across all of your team's Microsoft 365 groups, see which guests are in those different groups, which guests have access, really to help you prevent, hey, I invited this guest to this team 2 years ago, and they don't need access to it. We're not working with that person anymore. That project's been long gone and done, but nobody ever bothered to remove them from the group or the team. So this kind of gives you that global sweeping access review across your entire environment to see which guests have access to which teams. And they say like Teams/Microsoft 365 groups. Let's face it, this is doing an access review to see which guests are in a Microsoft 365 group.
Cool. Nifty.
It is. So there's lots of different settings there. You can set that schedule for your new access reviews, auto apply certain results to resources, have reviews. Reviewers don't respond. What do you do? What type of notifications do you send? But this is another one of those preview features. And this is one, like you said, Scott, certain preview features, they're going to make it to GA. They've had access reviews for years. Now they're just previewing being able to do it at a more global level. This is one of those that, I mean, the writing's on the wall. This will eventually make it to GA. But if you do want to go start playing with that, that is now available in preview. It does require an Azure AD Premium 2 subscription. So this isn't for anybody. You do have to go pony up some dollars for licenses if you don't have Azure AD Premium 2.
Yeah, well, or if it's not already included in one of your other licenses.
Right. Just go buy Microsoft 365 E5. You won't ever have to worry about license. Well, I can't say that.
No.
You almost won't have to worry about licensing anything ever again. Unless something like Project Cortex come out, or phone systems, or any number of add-ons that are now available. But yeah, this one was in that Azure Active Directory identity blog. So we'll post a link to that one as well.
Yeah, that's an easy one to get in there.
I gotta look. I have 10 minutes. Anything else, or should we call it a day?
No, let's call it a day.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Scott. It's kind of fun I get kind of sad over the holidays when there's no new stuff to play with and no news. Kind of like you said, I'm the worst example of playing with previews. So when I don't have new previews to play with or new stuff to look at, I get kind of bored and depressed.
Well, you are a shining example of being the worst at just having to use every new nifty thing that comes out.
I am. But who else would try it? Somebody's got to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, go enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben.
Yep. Thanks, Scott.